Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1362.
I guess if there was ever a book written about my life, I guess it would be just a short and sweet till the wheels fall off.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
What's the worst thing for your car's interior? No, it's not that milkshake the kid spilled in the back seat. It's the sun. Harmful UV rays cook your automobile's interior hour after hour when it's parked outside, even on a cloudy day. What's the solution? Covercraft sunscreens. They protect your dash, seats, and interior finishes from those damaging UV rays while keeping the interior temperature tolerable, even on the hottest summer days. No more painfully sizzling seats and steering wheels for you. They unfold quickly and easily install, stay where you put them, and are custom patterned for an exact fit. The foam core acts as a cooling insulator, and you can get yours in different colors and finishes. And they even fold up easily and store under your seat or on the floor. I've used Covercraft sunscreens for years, and they are a fast and easy solution that protect my beloved cars when they're not in the garage. Learn more and order yours at covercraft.com. Want to protect your entire vehicle? Get a car cover from Covercraft. They have those too. That's covercraft.com, and tell them Mark sent you. Hello, automotive and bike enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest calling in from Los Angeles, California, Tim Medvetz. Hey, Tim, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
Ready for a ride.
All right. You're always ready for a ride. Tim Medvetz is the founder of the Heroes Project, a foundation that makes the impossible a reality by empowering our injured veterans through physical and emotional training. He and his team organize expeditions to challenge vets who have been severely wounded to redefine their personal limits post-injury. Tim is a custom motorcycle builder and rider who built bikes for the Hollywood elite. He's a lifelong wanderer, a nomad, a natural extreme athlete who rode his chopper around the country numerous times. He was a member of the notorious Hells Angels Motorcycle Club and traveled all over the world. His adventures have taken him to Mount Everest, which he has summited, and he's one of those treks, I should say, that inspired Tim to take wounded veteran to Everest and start the Heroes Project, a foundation dedicated to raising funds to help the more severely injured women and women that served our country. Tim, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment, share a little bit more about your life, your passion for bikes, and definitely a passion for adventure before I jump into the questions?
Sure. Thanks for having me for starters, Mark. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate you reaching out. It's definitely not one of the normal calls that I get from a car podcast. So I'm a little more excited about this one. Not that I'm a huge car guy, but if it's got a motor and it's got rubber, I'm into it. So a little bit about me. I'm from the great state of New Jersey and moved out to California, packed up the bike, packed up the old lady, and headed out west and decided to figure we had enough money to last us about 6 months out here in LA, and then we were going back home because I was never going to leave Jersey. And that was about 20 years ago. So
things change, don't they?
Things change. You know, if you're a motorcycle enthusiast, you're a car enthusiast, you like mountains, you like hunting, you like fishing. I mean, it's pretty much just got it all. And so here I am. I'm still out here and based right out of Hollywood, California. Got a little nonprofit foundation. Our training grounds are all here just outside of Los Angeles. A lot of people don't realize that, when they say, wow, I mean, you live in Hollywood. Like, how do you train for, mountains like the size of Everest and that magnitude? And I'm like, well, a lot of people don't realize that we have actually about 3 mountains that are all above 10,000 feet that are within an hour drive of Hollywood. So, the old saying, right? I could be up in the mountains skiing in the morning and I could be having a beer at sunset, my feet in the sand on the beach in the afternoon. And it's actually true. So, which keeps me here. And that's about it. What else you want to know about me?
Well, we're going to learn a lot about you. Yeah, the beautiful Sierra Nevadas. I spent a lot of time skiing up in Mammoth Mountain when I was a kid. A great place to go ski. Big Bear, of course, which is a little closer. I grew up in San Diego. But as we continue on your journey, Tim, I first want to ask you for a success quote or a mantra. This is some kind of saying that's been a bit instrumental in forming your life, and it's a nice way to get the inspirational tires. In your case, smoking here on Cars. Yeah, so Tim, grab the handlebars and go.
I mean, I don't know. Let's see. Inspirational quote or mantra. I guess if there was ever a book written about my life, I guess it would be just a short and sweet till the wheels fall off. Simple. And it's funny working with a lot of injured veterans who their wheels actually did fall off.
Yeah, literally. Lost limbs.
And yet they keep plugging away. And so different set of wheels. And yeah, I mean, my life is, it's taken all kinds of twists and turns. And, my whole body's patched up with metal and pins and bolts and fusions. And so for me, it's, till the wheels fall off, right?
Well, I have a feeling your life isn't so short and sweet from all the adventures you've been through, but I understand what you're saying. And we're going to touch on that because you had a horrific motorcycle accident that in an interesting way through that recovery and that challenge led to some things. And I'm going to touch on that in a minute. But first, I want to go back a little further in time because you're an adventurer. You're a bike guy. You've always been a bike guy. You told me when we talked on the phone the other day, you ride a bike every day. So I want you to go back and tell us a story that instigated that passion you have for riding, for motorcycles, and a pivotal moment in your life when you knew that you were indeed going to be a bike guy.
I mean, I could the old cliche story. I used to sit on my dad's chopper, and he was a kid, and, I got this picture of me on a bike, and it's actually fairly true. My mom actually has a photo of me when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I was on a little push motorcycle. And it was the middle of summer in New Jersey, and I had a wool hat on. I had wool mittens, and I said to my mom, I said, "What?" I said, "Why? It looks like it's like summer. Like you guys are in the pool in the background. Why am I wearing a wool hat and mittens?" He goes, "Because every time you got on that little motorcycle, I had to go inside and I had to get you your helmet and your gloves." So, when you live in New Jersey and you live on the East Coast, we have the seasons, which we don't have out here. And so mom had, the winter box of clothes and, the summer box of clothes and the fall box of clothes and the spring box of clothes. To go into the garage and dig out the winter box just so I would have my motorcycle helmet and my gloves.
You had your gear on.
Yeah, there was that which I don't really remember that one too well. I mean, the picture's there. But I think the pivotal moment was about 3 doors up my street that I lived on. You could write a book about my street. It was called Dewey Ave, a little town called Colonia, New Jersey. And me and my buddies, we all had a little bike. We all had our mongooses and our little BMX bikes, and we called ourselves the Dewey Crew. And
cool.
We used to fight the kids in the other neighborhoods. But when we were really little, 7, 8, 9, whatever, there was our block. All of our neighbors were uncles and aunts. We always played in everybody's yard, and we had block parties, and everybody knew everybody. And it was just like the greatest neighborhood to grow up in. But about 3 doors up was an Irish family, and those guys would just, drink all night long in the backyard parties. And the one of his sons, Mr. Silence, Uncle Bob, he had a son, and his son was, a motorcycle enthusiast. And so all his buddies, they weren't in a bike club or nothing. But there was he had probably every one of his buddies had Harleys. And these guys would pull up, and there would just be like a lineup of like a dozen, 20 Harleys. And they would drink till the sun came up. And you always knew when they left, because it was about 2, 3 in the morning, the whole neighborhood would get woken up. But I remember this one guy, he had this one bike, this chopper, and it was this blue hardtail, and it was just like, I remember sitting on the curb just staring at this bike as a kid, and he'd get on it and he'd crank her up, and I just thought I remember that so vividly as a child, like seeing that bike and just being enamored by all those bikes that were parked. And I used to get real excited when they wake me up in the middle of the night, and I'd run to
the window,
run to the window and seeing them taking off, and it was just, But So I guess to answer your question, that would probably be my fondest memory as a kid. And then, of course, stealing the neighbor's Briggs and Stratton motor at the lawnmower, and then finding a frame and tires for a little mini bike, and then putting that thing together with my buddies and starting off with a mini bike. And then, one of us got a YZ80 Yamaha dirt bike, and then finally convinced my dad to get me a KX125, a Kawasaki. And so that was kind of like the introduction to bikes. It was always my thing.
Yeah.
And then
it always has been.
Yeah. And then in New Jersey, when we were 15 years old, we were allowed to get a moped license. So you didn't get your driver's license till you were 17. But at 15, you would get a moped license.
Yeah.
It allowed you to ride this moped that can only do 35 miles an hour. And I had a Peugeot moped, which was great because, now you can go to all the other towns and, you have a whole new set of friends that you never got. And then, of course, that moped turned into my dirt bike, which, riding that through all the trails. And that was that was cool because it was a whole nother world, because the dirt bike thing, you're only allowed to ride in the dirt and
kind of limiting.
You're limiting. But when you got onto a bike, then, on a moped, you have to abide by all the laws and turn signals. And then you're really thrown out there, thrown into the wolves, into the lion's den. So that was kind of my introduction at an early age to, being a motorcyclist. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we're going to fast forward here. I always ask my guests about a big challenge in life. And I know that you had a horrific motorcycle accident. You alluded earlier to pins and cages, and your body is full of metal. You must be a mess when you go through the airport security system. But you had a really tough recovery, from what I understand. You got into some really self-destructive behavior. And my understanding was that you read John Kerouac's book, Into Thin Air, and that gave you inspiration to change your life and go climb Everest, not only once, but twice. You summited Everest, which I got to see on that wonderful documentary that I've been watching with my wife on the Discovery Channel, Everest and Beyond. I want you to walk us through that challenging time in your life, kind of how difficult it was, and then how you came out of it in a positive way, because it was that in a weird way led to the Heroes Project, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so kind of take us through that. I know it's a tough time, but kind of walk us through that and take us down that ugly road, but then bring us into the light, like getting onto the top of that mountain and how that changed your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to give you the short version on that one. But essentially, moved out to California, 1998. It was El Nino at the time. And if anybody on your listeners are from Southern California, they were here in 98, they'll remember that real fully, because it literally rained every day for about 2 months. And
not a lot like with the season that we had this year in California. A lot of rain, right?
It was, I'll never forget that. And I'm a kid from Jersey, so when you think of California, you think there's hot blonde chicks and thongs rollerblading down the streets of all hours of the day,
Hey, don't destroy the image for everybody.
Yeah,
okay,
and then,
Tim?
and Van Halen's playing in the background. I wish they all could be California.
To California girls.
And then I get out here, and it's me and, my girl, and we're shacked up in this little hooker motel up on Sunset, because that's all we could afford. And it's raining every day, and it's just, and there's...
Welcome to California.
Oh, my God. It was just like a hellhole, man. I was like... And then, of course, boom, the weather broke, and then got an apartment. And at the time, I was in the motorcycle club, I was in the Hells Angels. And then fast forward 3 years of living out in Cali, and life's good, and the rain stopped, and going up to Big Sur and the Sierras and all these bitchin' rides in the Bay Area, and just loving everything California's got to offer, and life is good. And I'm traveling around the world with the club, and I got all these brothers that would do anything for me, and I'd do anything for them. And the dream, man, it's great. I'm building motorcycles, and I'm building bikes for, Keanu Reeves and, Red Hot Chili Pepper guys and Steven Tyler's and Cher and all these movie stars, John Travolta. And I'm, working in a t-shirt and jeans. I'm making about $150,000 a year, and everything's good. Everything's smooth rolling, smooth sailing. And then, riding through the valley and racing down this street. And it was kind of a good street to kind of open up the throttle a little bit, because there was no side streets, no driveways. Just apartment complexes with 2 lanes going south, 2 lanes going north. double solid down the middle, and I'm just ripping it, and opened her up, probably pushing about 90. It's probably a 45 speed limit. And then all of a sudden, didn't really factor in that someone parked on the side of the road was going to chock the wheels to the left and make a U-E, so they didn't have to go around the block, cross over 2 lanes, cross over the double solid middle to head back to the freeway because it was shorter than going around. And so I'm in the left lane. I'm just punching close to 100, and all of a sudden this car just like pulls out, U-turn, and I didn't even panic at first. I just swung over to the right lane. I was going to swing behind them and then flip them the bird. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I got to the right lane, they seen me and slammed on the brake. They froze. And then I had nowhere to go. It was like either I T-bone the truck and launch, or I throw the bike down and pray. And so that's what I did. I hit the rear brake. I threw the bike down and smashed into it. And I don't remember the actual impact. I don't remember launching in the air, but I do remember waking up. And I remember seeing my bike laying in the middle of the road. And my first reaction was like, oh man, like my bike's in the middle of the road. Someone's going to run my bike over. I gotta get my bike. And then not realizing that I'm laying in the middle of the road. And so go to get up, and I can't feel anything from my waist down. I'm completely paralyzed. And the shock hits me like, oh shit. And then I look to my left, and my left foot is literally by my ear. And like literally like maybe a foot from my ear. So I get on the phone, I call one of the brothers from the club, and I'm like, hey man, I messed up, man. You gotta come get me. I'm laying in the middle of the road. My bike's in the middle of the road. And he was like, I don't know, he said something funny like, I'm watching the game, leave me alone. I was like, no, man, like I'm really here. You gotta come get me. And he's like, all right, where you at? And then next thing you know, fire department, the police, and ambulances. And it was like, I really didn't really realize the extent of what happened. And that was probably about 7:30 at night. And so, the cops came and the fire department, and they scraped me off the ground and got me to the hospital. And I remember in the emergency room, and at this point I had like 6 of my brothers from the club with me, and they're all like my size, so over 6 feet and 200 some pounds. Yeah. And I remember the doctor kind of like trying to explain to me like what the extent of my injuries are. And he didn't really know the extent, all of it, because I haven't been x-rayed and CAT scanned at this point. But he knew that, my back was probably broken and my knee was completely smashed. It was, broken in half. My hand, my head, blood, and then my foot was like mangled, barely hanging on. And I just remember him saying like, well, we're going to patch you up. We're going to get you all good and you're going to make it through this, but I don't know if your foot's going to make it through it. And I'm like, huh? What? And he's like, well, we might have to lose your foot. And I was still in shock, but then wasn't really calculating what he meant by losing my foot. And I'm like, well, I meant to amputate. I said, amputate what? What do you mean? He's like, well, we might have to cut your foot off. I'm like, for what? Why? He's like, there's really nothing left. It's barely hanging on. And then I just it kind of hit me like reality of I might wake up and not have a foot. And I remember just lashing out at him. Like, I wake up tomorrow morning, I better have a foot or I'm going to kill you. That foot better be there when I wake up in the morning. And then there's 6 guys in the emergency room going, yeah, doc, just save the foot, And he's just sitting there you can see, he's just kind of shitting his pants, like, oh, I'll do the best I can. And then next thing you know, boom, the drugs hit me and out cold. And then fast forward, I wake up in the morning and I open my eyes and I look around and I'm like, okay, I'm alive, check. I'm in a hospital, check. And then also I remember the last thing was my foot. I look down almost immediately and I see my toes. And I'm like, oh God, thank God. Okay, I got my foot, check. And then I realized that there's all of these doctors and nurses in the room. There must have been about a dozen of them in there. The whole room is just filled with doctors and nurses. And everybody's staring up towards the ceiling. And I'm trying to get everybody's attention. I'm up, hello, but I can't because this machine is breathing for me. So I'm on a life support machine, a iron lung, whatever you want to call it. And then, so I couldn't say anything. So I'm trying to I couldn't wave my hands because everything's all, I'm casted and bolted and chained up basically. And then all of a sudden I'm like, what the hell is everybody looking at? And as I turn and like kind of move my head up, I notice they're looking at the television. And just as I scan my head up, all of a sudden I look up and the Twin Towers are literally crumbling down. It was about 9:30 in the morning.
That was 9/11?
I crashed on September 10th at 7:30 at night.
Oh my gosh.
And the next morning I woke up in ICU and all these doctors and nurses were watching this like tragedy that was unfolding.
Oh my gosh.
People say to you, like, well, do you remember where you were? It's a real easy one for me. But,
yeah, I remember where I was.
Yeah, I do remember, and this is terrible. Everybody's going to hear this and cringe what I'm about to say, is that, my first reaction was like, not realizing the extent.
The severity of that.
Severity of what was going on. I was just like kind of in shock. And then obviously how that was going to
a little bit self-focused at that time.
Sure. And then obviously, as the day went on, then realizing the extent of what happened.
Yeah. Wow.
Change. And so that's what started that. And then we speed up to, finally got out of the hospital about probably about 4, almost 5 months later. I was in a wheelchair for about almost 6 months. And then I went from the wheelchair to the little walker thing, with the tennis balls on the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Cool about that at all.
No, I'm trying to imagine that you with that. That doesn't fit with your persona, dude.
You put any hot rod stickers on it,
yeah, some flames out the back. You can't turbocharge those little balls.
Nothing you can do about that walker. There's nothing cool about it. And then I graduated from that to the crutches. And then once I got to the crutches, I was like, I could probably get on that motorcycle if I could figure out what to do with these crutches. And now I got my legs in a cast, foot's in a cast. I got to wear this Teenage Ninja Turtle shell from my neck to my waist. That was like 24/7 for 4 months. I had to wear that thing because I broke my back in like 6 places and it's been bolted.
Oh my gosh.
Caged around it. And so I figured out a way. I went to my buddy's shop and I get there and I'm like, look, I got to be able to ride this bike. I got to get back on my bike. It's been 6 months now. I'm going crazy. I need my life back. He's like, all right, so how are we going to do this? I said, well, my first problem is I got the cast on my foot, so I can't kick the kickstand out. So we got to weld an extension bar on it so I can just reach down with my hand and pull the kickstand out with my hand. He's like, all right, check, we can do that. All right, then I need a toe heel shifter because I can just push down with the cast and shift from first to second. The toe heel shifter, you push down on to go 1 down, and then the rest are, 5 up. So you would just push the rear shifter down, and that would get you in the gear. So I'm like, okay, that's great. He's like, all right, we can do that, no problem. And then my third problem was, what do I do with the crutches? There's nowhere to put crutches on this, this chopper of mine. I'm like, all right, well, what if I can learn how to just walk with one crutch? Then we only got to figure out somewhere to put one crutch. So that's all I did for like the next 2 weeks was just practice, trying to hobble around the house with one crutch. And finally I got it down where I can do it. And I hobbled down to the garage. At this point, he put the toe heel shifter on, he put the extension to the kickstand. And then I get on the bike and I take the crutch and I put it in between my crotch and I stick the end of the crutch crossed over the handlebar, sticking out so it looked like a joust. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I could do this.
Yeah, this is a good idea.
I fire the bike up and I pull out of the garage. The neighbors are giving me that look like, what an idiot.
Yeah, here he goes again.
And I got the turtle shell on, so you can imagine this visual. I have a photo. I'll send it to you. Anyway, so now I'm driving down the street. Things are okay. I pull up to a light, put the foot down. Okay, I got the cast. Not big deal. No big deal. And then I pull onto the freeway and things are going good, 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, 50. As soon as I hit 60, that wind hits the front of that crutch and boom, throws the crutch in the air.
Yeah, I see that coming.
Behind me. So now I had to manage to turn around, go back to get this crutch because I'm kind of stranded on an island once I come to a stop. I can't get off the bike without with this crutch, my lifeline. So I drive back against traffic, get the crutch, pick it up, put it on, get off the next exit, go back home. Now I got to reassess this thing. All right, how am I going to do this? And then I figured if I put a little tiny bungee cord that went across the risers on the handlebars, and I could just bungee the top of that when I hit high speeds, it wouldn't flip back. And that's what I did. And so
Tim, what are we going to do with you?
Look, it's like, you're a car guy, man. You got to get in your car. You got to drive.
It's like Niki Lauda pulling his helmet on over his burned off ear to get back in an F1 car.
Speaking of, the guys that I work with now, the injured vets that are missing limbs,
yeah,
they have their cars modified. They have, the brake and the throttle is all on the steering wheel. And
right.
So it's just one of those things, like going back to, you want an inspirational quote. It's right. It's like, you figure out a way. There's always a way. Anything in life is possible. The difference is between some people and other people is that some people want it more. And I wanted everything and anything. I would do anything to get back on that motorcycle to feel like a man again. And at this point in my life, I had to have, and that stuff's like demeaning, man. Like you lose your manhood. And then I just needed to feel like a man again. And so getting on the bike kind of filled that space for a little bit. And it just, as I kept getting, it was very painful to do this stuff. And so then I had to numb the pain. And that's where, the Vicodins started going from like 2 a day to 15 a day, and the drugs and just everything to like numb the pain. And that was about good. Then I decided I had to, go on a motorcycle trip cross country. And so I just basically went to like every Hell's Angel charter across America and just to feel like it's me again.
Sure.
Being on a bike for, 8-10 hours every day with all those injuries, you just...
I don't know how you did it. Yeah.
Did it with power of pharmaceuticals, right?
Well, yeah.
It's not a great thing to do, but I went to this self-destructive phase, just to numb the pain, to feel like a man again. And then after about a year of that, it was just like, I was like in this crossroads, and it was like I finally got back home to LA and like, all right, what's next? The bike shop was like, are you coming back? And I collect disability, like, what do I do? And then all of a sudden it was just like that light coming through the window, and it was shining on this book in distant air. And my next old lady of mine gave it to me, and she was just said, read this book. I never did. I just threw it on the bookshelf. And so it was just one of those moments, high as a kite, half a bottle of whiskey in me, and grabbed the book and started reading it. And I was just obsessed with this book. I think I stayed up till about 6 a.m, and it had this map of the route climbing the mountain. And I remember every time I'd read something like, oh, we just, got to Camp 2. And then I'd go all the way back to the front of the book and look at the map. Okay, that's where they're at now. I was just obsessed with the book. And then I finished reading it, and that was it. I was like, okay, I'm done. This is it. I'm going to take this into my own hands, and I'm going to go rehab myself and climb mountains. Because at this point, I did dabble in a little bit of the physical therapy, but it was probably about maybe 1 or 2 days of that when I walked in. It was just a bunch of, old people squeezing a ball and, people babying all these grown-ups, and that just wasn't for me. And so I needed a little extreme therapy. And so that was it, man. I put the book down, got some sleep, knocked on the neighbor's door, said I'm subletting my place, bought an open-end ticket, and 30 days later, stuffed everything in the garage, and took off to Nepal and lived in the Himalayas for a year, completely off the grid, no Wi-Fi, no cell phone service, threw the pills down the toilet, threw the booze away, and that was it. And that began the journey. And then, 3 years later, sold all the motorcycles, maxed out the credit cards, and $70,000, go to climb Everest, and then get my first shot at Everest. And then it was kind of a fluke. The show that you watched on Discovery was a complete fluke, because I was kicked off another team because I didn't have the rest of the money because I was selling my truck. I had a 1997 F350 Ford crew cab, power stroke diesel, and my buddy was going to buy it from me. I mean, I literally liquidated everything to climb this mountain. And he didn't give me the money till right before I was leaving. And so the other team kicked me off the team because I didn't give them the rest of the money. And then I showed up in Kathmandu with this sack full of cash. And then I found a team that had an opening, and this guy, Russell, who I met in a bar 2 years prior to that when I went to Nepal to rehabilitate myself. I met him in a bar. And I said, yeah, I'm going to climb Everest one day, and he's this legendary Everest climber. Gave me his card, and yeah, right, sure, I hear that from everybody. Enough, I reached out to him, and he's like, yeah, I got an opening on the team. Gave him a sack full of money, and that's when he dropped this whole, oh, by the way, there's going to be this production crew filming. And I didn't know nothing about that stuff. I live in Hollywood, but I'm actually kind of famous out here. I still say my claim to fame living in Hollywood is I'm the only one who lives in Hollywood without a headshot and an agent.
I know your helper, Christine. I had to pull some photos out of her to get for your show notes page. So, wow, this adventure is incredible. And here's what I'm going to do with you here, Tim. I want to keep you on the line. Usually my shows are about a half hour long. We've been into this for about a half hour. I'm going to make your show into a 2-part show if you'll let me, because I want to continue and talk a lot about Heroes Project and a few more things. So what I want to do here for our listeners is we're going to talk just briefly about Heroes Project, how this led into that. And then we're going to sign off and we're going to come back tomorrow and we're going to do a second part for this show. We're going to get more into the Heroes Project. Are you up for that?
Sure.
I'd like to do that. Okay, great.
We can leave it off with 3 years after my accident. I stood on top of the world, man. Summited Mount Everest on May 21st, 2007.
That's a pretty darn cool place to leave it off.
Yeah. Then you come off Everest, and the first question all your buddies say is, "What's next, man? You just climbed Everest. What's next?"
What's next? That'll lead us into the Heroes Project. So you listeners, you come back tomorrow and you're going to learn a lot more about this very adventurous guy named Tim and the Heroes Project. So thank you for listening today. When you want proven performance, there's one brand that's been around since 1938. That's Edelbrock, building the finest American-made performance products for the street and track. Edelbrock's products are designed and dyno-proven to deliver maximum results. Edelbrock has thousands of made-in-the-USA performance products for all makes and models. From their new AVS2 carburetor and innovative ProFlow 4 EFI for your muscle car or truck, to superchargers for your daily driver and more, visit Edelbrock.com to check out the latest products for your ride. And when you're ready to check out, enter CARS YEAH in the coupon code and get 10% off your order. That's Edelbrock, automotive performance since 1938. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. Hey, Mark Green here from Cars Yeah. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? It's a weekly visit to some of my past Cars Yeah podcast guests, and I take you along for the ride. You go behind the garage door and into their lives, their businesses, and you get to see what makes them successful. With tens of millions of viewers, Cars Yeah TV is making its mark. Cars Yeah TV is available on MAV TV and Lucas Oil Racing TV. You'll find MAV TV on Direct TV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through Lucas Oil Racing Television online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah!